Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing Hasan is in Massive Fucking Trouble by More Pegasus. And if swearing right that early gets me demonetized, if ever that happens, I don't care. I don't care at all.
Welcome back to a series that is getting way too crazy. In today's video, yet another instance of political violence has taken place with the latest shooting in Dallas, Texas. Hasan has responded
Yeah, that shooting in Dallas, Texas is something. The fact that he was, anti-ICE, and yet he shot at the ICE facility and then they're pulling detainees in, and to only have shot the detainees, yeah, and then shot himself, like he killed two of the detainees. It's like he was on the side that's for the illegal immigrants being here. Why did he kill them? He made this whole plan and didn't go take a gun course, like a shooting lesson.
instantly justifying the violence, implying the shooter was fighting Gestapo, which are Nazis. The shooter is now confirmed to be a radical lefty lunatic based on all of the evidence. Hasan is working overtime to completely ignore all the facts of the situation and brand the shooter as someone with, quote, incomprehensible politics, which is translation for he's a radical lefty and that makes me look bad, so I don't want to admit it. Hasan is
Ooh, nailed him. Hasan is, it's one of those where I was like, at one point, a handful of years ago, Hasan was actually a lot less terrorist supporty than he is today. I actually occasionally watched him, saw a video or two of his, and now I'm just like, man, I hate that I funded this piece of shit. Even if my views only accounted to 10 cents of his whole revenue stream, I don't care. I want my money back.
Saying the FBI is going to blame trans people for this. Literally nobody has done that. He's bringing up Israel again out of nowhere. He's saying people should stop crying about political.
Well, that's because Israel and Trump and Asmongold live rent-free in Hasan's head. They had apartments pretty large to hold all of Israel there, too. It's because Hasan's rich and he's got a lot of money. So he's got money to buy a big house in his own head.
Violence and, I guess, stop crying about shootings? Yikes. He's now saying that it's perfectly normal to call people fascists and Nazis and refuses to tone down the rhetoric, and a bunch of more updates.
Oh, I cannot wait. As soon as Dan Clancy's sitting before Congress having to testify for the violence, or the, not the violence, the, anti-Semitism and terroristic support on the platform that he is CEO of. They're also calling Discord and Reddit and Steam for some reason. I guess gaming is thrown in there enough times and connected that it's just being dragged along like gaming always gets.
Subscribe or you turn into Hasan's dog and you have to listen to Hasan 10 hours a day.
Yeah, I feel so bad for that dog. That dog, it's the only, Hasan is the only person, size-wise, who's big enough for this dog. However, this dog needs a new owner. Needs a new owner. Look at that face. It's so sad.
You're cooked. Now let's begin with the latest shooting and Hasan's instant response. For some context, basically a guy named Joshua John shot up an ICE facility and he randomly shot at an unmarked van hoping to kill ICE officers. But unfortunately for him, this van had detained illegal immigrants and tragically, he killed the very people that he wanted to set free. He then immediately necked himself after he was cornered like a massive coward. So absolute omega dumbass on every level. If you support ICE, you obviously hate him, and if you hate ICE, you still hate him because he killed the immigrants. Now real quick, ICE is basically the police who are in charge of deporting illegal immigrants in the US. Very controversial. They face a lot of criticism for potential abuses of power, etc., etc. But I'm not here to talk about the politics. I'm only here to discuss Hasan's response, which should have been to denounce terrorism and murder and killing people and the rhetoric that led to it. But instead, Hasan is immediately trying to gain political points, pretend this guy was somehow a right-wing shooter. Actually,
what? The Hasan lying again? He would never do that.
Actually targeting the immigrants. Justify the violence by saying ICE is Gestapo, which is the Nazi police force. Now, we'll find out that all available evidence and reporting proves that this was an extreme radical lefty communist, just like with Tyler Robinson in the Charlie Kirk shooting. Here's some of the reporting that's pretty clear.
FBI agents executed a search warrant at the sniper's residence yesterday, and there found a collection of notes. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. He wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel.
Well, on that note, he failed spectacularly.
And to maximize property damage at the facility. He hoped to minimize any collateral damage or injury to the detainees and any other innocent people.
Oops.
It seems that he did not intend to kill the detainees or harm them. It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. The tragic irony for his evil plot here is that it was a detainee who was killed and two other detainees.
Two of them are killed at this point, and the one survivor was in critical condition, last I heard.
He also hoped his actions would give ICE agents real terror of being gunned down, and he did this to induce constant stress in their lives. He hoped his actions would terrorize ICE employees.
This is literally, he's literally just defining his own act of terrorism. He is a terrorist, and he was thinking that the ICE agents are supporting the fascist regime that is touted to be the MAGA movement. This dude is deep in the propaganda tunnels of the left that need to be disassembled and punished for frankly. I think they're inspiring and inciting all this violence. I was looking at a post on Twitter yesterday of people, talking about TwitchCon and who's going, and it was on one of the Asmongold's related posts, and I'm like, if I were one of the personalities speaking as I am today, I would not feel safe going even to anywhere in the vicinity of Twitch with how much terroristic support and anti-Semitism is on that platform. It is insane how much that's just, it's allowed because it's the better talking point of the left, and we don't want to disappoint them.
This was posted again by FBI Director Kash Patel. The shooter also searched apps that track the presence of ICE agents. The FBI also released a picture of anti-ICE messages written on rounds that were found next to that shooter. Officials say this attack was a result of dangerous anti-ICE rhetoric.
Right, so pretty clear that this was a guy trying to kill ICE officers, 100% confirmed. He was just a complete fucking idiot who killed the people that he was trying to free. In fact, people did some digging and they found his social media profile, and here we got Joshua John with this profile picture, the communist logo, definitely a far Joshua John.
So another thing I caught here on his profile, where it says education, it says Imagine Solar. So I'm guessing he did some kind of solar sales course, and he was a door-to-door solar sales guy, which tracks for Texas, but his job is department manager, technical department manager of something.
People did some digging and they found his social media profile, and here we got Joshua John with this profile picture, the communist logo, definitely a far-right MAGA Nazi grifter right here. Right, so there we have it. All the facts are in front of his face. Let us see Hasan's response.
This is an incredibly strange piece of evidence, I will say.
To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop.
Bro, this dude killed detainees, and these guys are still talking about the fear that ICE agents have to experience on a daily basis. Political violence is unacceptable. Obviously, I have never advocated for political violence. I don't advocate for political
You do.
violence.
Right, Mr.
You
I
are.
don't advocate political violence, back at it again. Buddy, how many times are you going to keep repeating that lie? It's not convincing anybody. We have the clips. Play the clips.
Yeah, I just
If
saw
you cared
chatter
about
say
Medicare
Rick
fraud
Scott.
or Medicaid fraud,
This
you would
one.
kill Rick Scott.
Well, my understanding
That right there is number one.
is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them.
Result.
Kill those motherfuckers and
That's
murder those
two.
motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
Anyways, he says incredibly strange, guys. The message
I
is
wasn't
just
sure how
very
many
strange.
Pegasus
It's
was
just
gonna
so
go.
strange that the shooter is a radical loony leftist like me. I just find it very strange. But obviously, if the bullet said something like anti-immigrant on there, then it's not strange. Then it's very clear it was a racist right-winger, obviously. Dude, he obviously wanted people to know his ideology and gain attention for it, right? And go down as some martyr, but obviously this guy was a complete idiot. So Hasan using the standard
He'll go down as
strategy
the
of
idiot
very
leftist.
suspicious, probably a false flag, right?
And no, I'm not happy that he died. I'm just happy that he missed his targets of our wonderful ICE agents who are trying to get people out who don't belong here. And one thing I do say is, I'm nothing against the immigrants who died. They weren't supposed to be here, but had they just self-deported, they wouldn't have gotten shot.
So then he reads some article trying to cope and say the shooter was right-wing, even after all the evidence we found and the shooter's own notes. And then he concludes that it's just impossible to know this guy's politics.
Asked about the inscription on the bullet, the friend said, Josh was an edgelord who wanted someone to get blamed. I think he tried his best to write something goofy to rile people up. John's profile on the gaming platform Steam showed the vast amounts of time he spent playing video games, particularly shooters, more than 6,000 hours on Rust, which, oof, red flag. Okay, that's, no disrespect to Rust, but bit of a red flag there, 3,000 on Team Fortress 2, 1,000 on Left 4 Dead 2. He even found time to play 3.5 hours in the past 2 weeks, the account shows. Among the dozen or so usernames he used, one was reading #impeachment. When I asked if this wasn't a clear reference to anti-Trump politics, his friends recoiled at the idea that he would sincerely and straightforwardly and said they saw it as a part of his broader ironic persona, poking fun at the anti-Trump resistance types. One friend recalled
so
that when
was
Trump first
poking
came
fun
to
at
power,
them.
Jan was not a fan, though he had contempt for mainstream politicians in general. His friends say he had more of a libertarian bent, with one recalling an interest in the libertarian figure Ron Paul. You know what's really funny about the ideological motives that people try to ascribe to, instances of political violence, like people who have engaged in acts of political violence, is that we have such a silly view of the average American, which I always point to when talking about the median voter. Identifying the politics of a median voter is a virtually fucking possible. Okay.
No, it isn't. You just look at what they talk about, their social media, maybe even the photos on their social media, and you could probably pretty easily figure out. And if that's not helpful, if maybe they're not an online person, their friend group, their family definitely knows which direction that person leans.
It's just so silly because most people do not subscribe to straight ticket blue Dem or straight ticket right-wing Republican voting. Okay. There is more consolidation ideologically within the right as opposed to the liberal side of things, for sure. But having said that, even then, it is virtually impossible to understand what the average American, especially the average American that doesn't vote, even though he is eligible to vote, is genuinely impossible. Okay?
It's impossible, guys. It's impossible to know the motive of the shooter. He just told us exactly what he was thinking, that he wanted to terrorize ICE officers, that he was a radical communist, that he was anti-ICE, but it's impossible, guys. It's seemingly impossible. Life is so nuanced, guys. I, Hasan Biker, am the king of nuance, actually. Are we really left or right, guys? We're actually all just humans. Unless you're Asmongold, that's a fucking far-right Nazi grifter, of course. This guy's actual comedy, dude.
There are many people in here that if someone from the outside was looking at your social media profiles, they would be like, what the fuck does this guy believe? I don't understand it. I can't associate it with any sort of like.
If Asmongold's a far-right Nazi grifter, fucking call me fucking Stalin. I am a lot further beyond that what Asmon says on some things, but on others I fully agree with him. But there's a few things where tough on crime is when I'm like, yeah, we need to be a lot tougher on it. Every time.
Like mainline established political ideology.
Oh, please. I could spot a Hasan viewer from 500 miles away. They got like an aura of stupid just radiating from them. I mean, it's pretty obvious what their social media
Yeah, they're running around shouting, free, free Palestine, even though they can't point to it on a map.
profile is going to be probably communist, Antifa supporter, 50 flags, 80 pronouns, maybe the Hezbollah flag, maybe Hamas dick rider in the profile.
You know, Hasan's favorite
quote,
flag, the Hezbollah one.
I support the Houthis. Massive Luffy fans, but not like the One Piece kind, the real life kind. Let's see how Hasan's fan base is responding. Just write something anti-ICE on the casings. Basically implying that they're setting this up, or it's like false evidence, false flag, basically.
No.
These left-wing shooters are so right-wing coded. It's so strange. The Gestapo are having their fifis hurt and crying about it is insane. People literally died. Like, what do you mean fifis hurt? These people are insane. My favorite leftist chat, anti-ICE drawn on with magic marker. How reliable and probably real. What about the notes, you fucking moron? There we go.
I mean, just take a look at the guy. He played even more video games than almost me. And I had a broken leg stuck in a chair for a handful of months where I couldn't even really walk. I still can't do much. That was only back in April, and it's, September 27th. And by April, I mean April 30th.
Oh, they admit it. They're not even competent at pulling off a convincing false flag. The Hasan Piker playbook. False flag, guys. Anytime. Any bit of terrorism.
Any bit of terrorism against the right is false flag, according to Hasan. Every single bit of it.
False flag. Probably set up by Israel. Yeah, I'm going false flag on this one. They wrote that shit with the Sharpie in their uniform. Did they write his notes as well, you fucking idiot?
Yeah, right.
A lot of people were screaming Nazi and fascist, and that's basically what is leading to these shootings. So again, people are asking to respectfully tone down the rhetoric. And Hasan is incredibly offended. Also, I love how he has to sort of admit that it is a radical lefty, but then again turns around and says it's an apolitical person.
We saw it with Charlie Kirk.
You're not taking this anti-ICE bullet marking seriously, are you? I mean, it looks strange for sure.
No, it looks
now that we know that the shooter
like
was not
lazily
actually
written because I'm going to shoot these
detainees deliberately and was instead shooting at an unmarked van that it thought had a bunch of ICE agents in it. It does develop a profile. It does develop a motive that makes more sense. The anti-ICE part of the writings are so stupid. But who knows?
A hunting rifle with a capacity of 5 cartridges takes that weapon, aims it at the ICE facility, starts firing at will, and then takes their own life. And is it this rhetoric that people just keep doubling down on that suddenly causes someone to snap?
You know what the real problem is? It's the people that are naysayers. It's the people that are not patriotic enough. It's the people that are not sufficiently pro-Donald Trump. They are the ones who are causing this discontent. They're creating another manufactured hysteria around left-wing violence. And the Democrats are not turning around and saying, you're wrong. Violence is a constant. It's devoid of any sort of ideological background in the United States of America. Manufactured hysteria that they will use to erode the First Amendment. They will use to basically stamp out any kind of political discontent. And it will not stop with radical elements in American society. It won't stop. If you think that it's just going to be people like myself, for example, you're wrong.
You're wrong, guys. You're wrong. After they arrest Hasan, obviously they're going to go after you. They're going to arrest you too.
I can't wait for them to arrest Hasan and then to go after the orbiters who if whoever, given full terrorist support, agreeing with Hasan's takes and everything, I don't think every orbiter will go down, but I definitely know there'll be some fishes that go down with the whale.
Genius strategy by Diddy Piker here, basically making people afraid of their free speech. Buddy, for the last time, people only talk about you because you encourage violence and terrorism. You love it and absolutely make excuses for it anytime it happens. Random people are not going to get arrested for just criticizing the government. Also, he says manufactured hysteria. Dude, are you blind? Like, are you actually kidding me? It's nonstop, literally in front of your face. It's the only thing people have been talking about for months. It's not hysteria, it's literally happening. That's why people are going after you, telling you to tone down the rhetoric, because
anybody else just feel it, every time they see Charlie Kirk now, it just is like, it hurts. It's like I don't want to stop seeing him ever again, but it hurts knowing that we won't get anything new of his outside of, there's a handful of interviews that Erica Kirk said in the latest Charlie Kirk show episode, or one of the latest, that there's some interviews and there's some footage that hasn't ever come out yet that they'll be slithering into us over time. So at least we will have some new stuff from him. But yeah, it still hurts.
It is your type of violent rhetoric and calls to violence that leads to these types of things happening. But you still don't get the message. Then Hasan continues and basically justifies it again.
When, elected officials are out there on national television saying that, these ICE agents are modern day Gestapo, well, what are you supposed to do? I mean, if somebody heard that, during...
What do you mean? It's true. And not only is it true, but it's also protected speech. What the fuck are we talking about? In theory, what we're talking about here is that when the state behaves in a violent manner, people are supposed to go, people are supposed to say, okay, that's permissible, right? That's appropriate. That is the design of the state. It's done to protect as many people as possible. And there are instances where that is appropriate. Okay, there are instances where that is totally appropriate. If someone's a serial killer, of course it's appropriate for the cops to literally arrest them, apprehend them, detain them, put them behind bars to ensure that they don't kill again, right? But that broad analysis does not factor into all state violence.
He actually makes a decent point here. The only problem is everything he says around it is completely brain dead. So he says people who violated the law of crossing the border should be treated with less force and less cruelty than an actual murderer, which is obviously true. Now he also says stuff like they should be granted citizenship.
But when ICE has to do ICE raids into a sanctuary city, they have to go in. And sometimes there are people who don't want them there, obviously. And that since this administration has been they've been called the modern day Gestapo. So they are already at a heightened sense of alert. They are trying to move in, get the person that they're there for with the warrant that they have, because that dude committed a crime, because that's what they're going after first. And then after they... sometimes they find others with that guy, so they'll take them too. It's really simple. If they find others that are also illegal while they're hunting for the guy with the warrant, they're not just gonna go, oh, you're illegal? Stay here. No, they're gonna be, you come too. And they're gonna ask them politely, but most of the time these people resist. I've seen it so many times in videos and footage, just not even like Fox News footage either, like just normal, like posts on Twitter, posts on X, posts on Instagram, and like, come on. There's so much of it that's obvious evidence.
That's another issue. But the problem is, in that same sequence of sentences, he literally says the same thing, which led to the shooting, and says that they are Gestapo. which is Nazi Germany's secret police force. Now, the leaders of Gestapo were actually involved in the H-Cost thingy, right? So this guy is basically calling them the worst of the worst humans, right? And if you call them Nazis trying to literally take over, obviously it is then justified for people to go and shoot them because they're fascist Nazis who must be eliminated at any cost. So that's why you can't do that, Hasan. You can't be fucking talking like that. You are the problem. The solution to every problem is not just calling people Nazis and trying to get them killed. The solution is to make changes through Congress and voting and democratic procedures. But what happens is that Hasan loses because he's a radical lunatic, and then he whines like a baby and he tries to take matters into his own hands by
And Hasan definitely supports Antifa.
being this random socialist revolutionary. Now, another thing I really dislike about Hasan's side is that he makes no distinction between immigrants and illegal immigrants. A person breaking the law versus a person who does not is very different.
You can say you are wrong, and that's fine, but you have to explain to me why that is bad for the overall societal good. Why is that a bad thing?
Right, so the article he flashed up right there, research shows immigrants benefit taxpayers. Nobody is arguing against
they
that.
don't.
Of course immigrants are helpful and necessary.
I mean, they help
Obviously,
somewhat,
Hasan
but
cannot argue in good faith for the life of him. The debate is what kind of immigrants, legal or illegal. It's so disingenuous to just put that up. A lot of these radicals just
Legal
do not see the
immigrants
difference
benefit
between a
the legal immigrants benefit the taxpayers, especially if those legal immigrants get a job in the country where they're quite high earning and then they pay taxes, or if they become a business owner in the US that becomes a really big company or something and makes a lot of tax dollars for the US. It's like it's a win-win either way for a legal process. For legal immigration processes is exactly what we need. And while ours aren't perfect, they are better than, just opening the door like Joe Biden did.
Lawbreaker and a person following the rules. The problem is, without laws, you have no society and it's just chaos. Right, so then he starts coping, saying that the FBI will blame it on trans people.
Profile picture on Facebook is of a communist. It's a glorious exposition comrade is the meme that's on the profile picture, which is another way to say cool story, bro, right?
Yeah, and I haven't seen a single person try to blame trans people, for the record. And it has been, I think, 3 days since the shooting. Yeah.
As far as the shooter's background goes, as far as the shooter's leanings goes, I'm sure the FBI will do everything in their power to make it an associate of Antifa or anti-fascist violence or whatever the fuck they're trying to present as like the real fear that you must, or transgender people, you know what I mean? Like the real the real enemies of America, right?
Okay, so it's literally confirmed it was a radical lefty communist lunatic, and you still go, oh, well, the FBI is going to try to manipulate you about this. He literally says he wants the ICE agents to feel terror. He's got that communist fucking profile picture. The ideology is perfectly clear. And of course, Hasan mentions Antifa. He is still butthurt that Trump designated Antifa a terrorist org, and he
Yeah, because that makes him not only a terrorist supporter, but a member of a terrorist organization.
Fully declared himself anti-fascist the day after. Not a smart move, by the way. Almost declared himself a terrorist right there. But he's getting very close to that. But he really wants to see that prison cell with destiny.
Oh, this would be a great day, seeing both of these two sharing a cell together, having to talk politics and try not to kill each other.
Turn into the cockroach he is. So then he says that he doesn't believe anything they say because they are biased. Ultimate projector back at it again.
And you come out with information like this, people are obviously not going to be immediately, they're just not going to believe you. In the eyes of even Republicans, as a matter of fact, this is part of the reason why even Republicans are like, maybe it was Israel that killed Charlie Kirk, and they don't even fucking believe the FBI.
He's mentioning Candace Owens, the crazy, used to be far left Candace Owens, and then she's jumped over to the far right now, and it's like, well, that horseshoe really is a horseshoe where the far right and the far left, this is a better one, the far right and the far left are literally basically the same thing. Well, here on the far left, you've got socialism turning into Nazism, and on the far right, you've got fascism becoming communism. Or no, not communism, just normal fascism.
This is what happens when you're unprofessional. This is what happens when you are openly biased. This is what happens when you reveal fake information or false information without actually taking this investigation seriously. I'm using the
Fascist
Tyler Robinson
dictatorship
case
is the
because
word
that
I
was
was
a
meaning to
major
say.
issue for the FBI.
This is what happens when you're biased, he says. This is what happens when you present false information, guys. Does this guy even hear himself? Honestly, what the fuck is he on about? It's blatantly obvious what the shooter's motivation was. He literally tells you in his notes and the bullet, but Hasan is selectively blind during this instance because it doesn't bode well for his narrative. Also, you were literally one of the loonies saying, well, Charlie Kirk probably deserved it because of his own rhetoric and essentially defending the nutjob Tyler Robinson. Also, these people constantly imply
Yeah, Tyler Robinson can get the death penalty, send him out back for the firing squad to have an ironic death, because he deserves a bullet just like he gave Charlie.
it's got to be the opposite side. How about you just look at the facts of the case? Even when it was a person with a trans partner, furry lover, anti-fascist slogan engraving person who said, I want to protect you, my love, to their trans partner, it's got to be like a far-right radical. Like, these people make no sense.
Anyway, yeah, here's J.D. Vance also using this as an opportunity to continue the anti-left rhetoric to try to say, like, oh, it's the left that is doing this. We have to stop them. Where do you think it will go? Where do you think this will go, for the record? This is going to inevitably lead to the administration taking action, okay? The administration taking action against any sort of political dissent.
Just because we don't support illegal aliens, we don't want them to be executed by violent assassins engaged in political violence either. So we're praying both for our ICE agents, but also for everybody who's affected by this terrible attack.
Praying for our ICE agents again, but also maybe the detainees as well, who are illegal aliens.
So now praying for both sides is bad. Praying for people who were shot at is bad. You just can't win.
We can pray that the detainees, you know, wherever their beliefs add them, they wind up there. And hopefully, you know, their families find out and grieving them in whatever way suits them. And also the ICE agents who, you know, are like, we almost got shot. That's probably a pretty traumatic experience. I've never been shot at before, thankfully. But I don't think I'd like to be
with this guy. Also, audience question. If the shooter wrote anti-immigration on the bullet, what do you think Hasan would immediately say? These radical far-right lunatics, we need to stop them immediately. But because it's the opposite, which it overwhelmingly seems to be, you just can't talk about it. Hasan can't seem to comprehend this guy's politics, you know? It could be anything, guys. So this guy does some straight-up terrorism, you know, shooting people because of political reasons, and you can't denounce the crazy political violence going on. Is anybody shocked? Is anybody shocked? Hasan always aligns himself with the terrorists. Then Hasan says that people are just...
Well, Hasan is a professional aligning with terrorists, so we already knew that.
Crying about this as if it's wrong to be upset about a shooting.
Thousands of other conservatives shamelessly celebrated the assassination and called for more of them. Now imagine that in the same week, another right-winger shot up a country club while
crying like crazy. They're just like, the Republican mentality is about perceived victimhood. Like, they're attacking Christians, they're attacking our way of life, they're attacking traditional family values. They want us dead. They want us dead over and over and over.
What part of that is false?
Again. And in the process of that perceived victimhood, this perceived victimhood narrative that they
oh, now he's projecting.
Channel, they get increasingly more insane. But because they're professional victims, there are plenty of people in the base that also subscribe to this professional victimhood narrative. Like, think about that. These guys have all the levers of power and they're still crying.
Dude, your side is trying to shoot and kill them. Of course they're crying. You got
Yeah, we got so many people who were cheering on that Charlie got killed. And you go back and you look, and every time I see a clip I'm like, where's this hate that the left talks about that he had? Like, there's nothing. Even if you walked away disagreeing with him, he didn't hate you. He had someone come up to him with a shirt that said "Fuck Charlie Kirk" on it, and she's like, "You want to sign it?" And he's like, "Nah, it's already got my name on it." Tossing around jokes, and he's like, he didn't dislike her. He's just like, it's a little disrespectful to do that, but that's your freedom of expression to do that. So
thousands of people, from healthcare workers to surgeons to lawyers to all types of people, saying that conservatives should be dead, celebrating an assassination, finding 101 ways to justify it. You got teachers playing the murder video on repeat to 10-year-old students.
Yeah, that story was absolutely fucked up. I don't care which side you're on. That you shouldn't do that. No. I saw it only a couple times, and after seeing it once, accidentally coming across it again and again, just being on Twitter that day, I can't get the image out of my head.
Trying to brainwash them. Now they're trying to kill officers, but they're so incompetent they end up killing immigrants. It's just a complete mess. Of course people are outraged. Violence is never the answer. Anyways, then Hasan calls them all fascists, the standard.
They're just trying to stamp out people that say, I don't like this. This is fascism through and through.
He needs to go back and reread the dictionary definition of that word.
They are doing this at the behest of some of the most racist dipshits in society because they're not going to actually address the cost of living crisis. They're not going to actually offer you free health care. So they're just trying to throw red meat at key parts of their base.
Right. Hasan is the guy who will give you free healthcare, guys. Hasan is the one who will solve all of your problems. You see?
Look at the modest socialist guy here. Him and all his drip. Every day he's got to have a different outfit. Never wears the same thing twice. Walking around, living in a $3 million house, driving a $100,000 plus car, wearing those expensive watches all the time. He's got a few, I think.
Hasan is going to sell his $3 million mansion and donate it to Palestine. Oh wait, he ain't doing shit. Instead, he's taking your last $5, which you were stupid enough to donate to him on Twitch, and laughing at you in his 7th Gucci shirt, all while still calling everybody fascist. It's crazy.
That's exactly why I think when Hasan no longer has a platform to upload and be on, he's going to go broke real quick. He's going to have to sell his house, or he's going to have to beg his uncle for a spot on the Young Turks.
How this guy has still not learned a single thing. How many more people need to die before this guy stops? Then he has his daily segment crying about Trump.
This violence is a result of radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished, and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. The continuing violence from radical left terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination must be stopped. ICE officers and other brave members of law enforcement are under grave threat. We already declared Antifa a terrorist organization, and I will be signing an executive order this week to dismantle these domestic terrorism networks. I am calling on all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement right now. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement, strong borders, securing our homeland, deporting violent illegal criminals, and fully rooting out the left-wing domestic terrorism that is terrorizing our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
I don't know where any part of that is bad or incorrect.
Democrats are so stupid. Oh my God. If they cave on this, if they just don't actually come out and say this is ridiculous, obey in advance and say, yes, you're right, Mr. President. We hate the evil radical left. And then they'll go get arrested too.
Why would lefties get arrested? Nobody is getting arrested unless you're literally committing crimes. Hasan, if they were actually going after you, you would already be in jail. If they were actual fascist Nazis trying to silence any criticism, you would be number one on the chopping block. You would be first in line. The fact that you have suffered zero consequences means that they are not going after the slightest bit of dissent, because you would literally be the forefront of propagandists. So anyways, people started to criticize Hasan once again because he does lead to a lot of this behavior. Even in this particular stream, he calls them fascists and Nazis. So then he tells people not to blame him for this.
Oh my Lord. This is You know what's really funny? A lot of mainstream voices, especially on the right, constantly are now trying to point the finger of blame at like edgy nihilism and like political violence in my direction. And so much of what I try to do is to snap people out of this. Like literally.
But what he didn't say was that they were liars.
Literally, if people come in here and watch me for half a day, they will realize that
you're a massive terrorist supporter and you get up from your chair and leave terrorist propaganda on.
That a big chunk of what I am combating is exactly this: the social isolation that comes from finding yourself steeped within like incel, extremely online, irony poisoned, nihilistic circles that basically push your real life social interactions into the.
I can't believe he just described himself in the perfect way of what he thinks he's against.
Background as your online persona under the guise of anonymity becomes more and more your real world persona as well. And it causes people around you to go, ew, gross, get the fuck away from me. This is a big part of the reason why I always say touch grass. This is a big part of the reason why I always say be fucking normal.
Hasan telling someone to be normal? You can't be serious. You stream 10 hours a day, and then in your off time, you watch SlopTube videos.
He plays basketball, I'll give him that. He does have a daily basketball thing with some other YouTuber guys, so I'll give him that one. He does get out at least once a week, once a day.
Dude, you're the most terminally online degenerate
I don't remember
to ever
what he
exist.
said. I don't.
Be normal
No one pulls
like
that
me, guys.
example
I
up.
only support 4 terrorist organizations. So anyways, the chatter calls him out, basically saying his community is nuts and is not normal.
I would have to say
his whole community looks just like him. They're all crazy. You can look at his chat at any point of his streams and realize that, holy crap, this dude and his audience are worse for society than anything else. They're all the same thing. They all shout the same words, the same voices.
Hey, you're doing a terrible job. Yeah, that's unironically the most untrue thing you could say, because there are a shit ton of people in here that have found not only a sense of community online, but also have found themselves doing more
chatter rare
productive shit in the real world as a direct consequence of me urging them to stop and shake themselves out of this like weird, deep, dark, nihilistic fucking internet-based online circles that they find themselves in.
Right. Hasan viewers are so productive. Average life of a Hasan viewer: wake up at 6 a.m., block the streets, go be a part of some protest, prevent babies from reaching the hospital, tweet.
Speaking of which, Hasan in that press vest, is that thing is the most fakest part of his outside of the house personality when he tries to do these activism
on
streams
social media about
outside.
How much you love communism and terrorism. And yeah, spend the rest of your time in Hasan's stream spamming love hearts whenever he talks about actual terrorist shooters. In fact, let's take a look at the most normal Hasan viewer.
So we have an update on the mass shooting at the ICE detention facility in Dallas. The shooter was specifically targeting detainees at the
False, he was targeting agents, but he accidentally shot detainees.
This point has been confirmed that 2 of the detainees have been unalived and 1 of them is in critical conditions. Now, the shooter was a white male. He unalived himself apparently from a self-inflicted wound. And according to local reports, his specific target was the detainees, not.
This guy should be required to remove this video due to false information throughout the entire thing, because that is false every bit of the way. The dude was not a white nationalist. The dude was a far leftist radical who had every bit of it wrong.
ICE officers. So this does appear to be a right-wing extremist terrorist attack on defenseless people who were already being detained and most likely deported as it.
Even if it was a right-winger trying to shoot detainees, that story makes zero sense, because they were already detained, and this was a facility that is the last stop before they're sent away. Like, this is as close to going home as they were, yet, yeah, no, 0% chance it would have been the other way around.
Was, but apparently that was not good enough justice for this guy. He had to take the law into his own hands and unalive.
Dude, I would try to guess like what news network he's watching, but it's like not even CNN is fucking saying this shit. This is like purely from your melted brain. Literally seeing all the facts of the case.
He saw a headline, found out who got shot, and made up a story.
It's proving this guy is 100% a radical lefty lunatic. His own notes, what he engraved on the bullet, ignoring all of that and going, well, actually has to be a far-right extremist.
But this paired up with the fact that this paired up with the FBI investigation that has yielded no results, both in the case of Tyler Robinson and also in the case of this shooter as well, to any sort of like left adjacent groups, like left adjacent associations, makes it much harder for the government to develop a profile that would justify significant incursions on free speech. This reminds me more of like a Thomas Crook style individual where their politics are indecipherable and it just like kind of doesn't make sense.
The politics are just indecipherable, guys. The shooter was actually using alien language. It's impossible to actually know whenever it's a radical lefty. I just don't know his politics.
Seriously, radical leftist. Oh, we just don't know his politics, guys. We have no idea which side of the aisle he's on. It's insane. Right-wing guy. That dude is a fascist. He is a 100% murderer. He did it, and he's going to do it again if you ever let him back out. And it's like, really?
We have to wait, guys. We have to wait.
What?
I just don't know. All of the evidence is there, but I don't believe it. I mean, how do you even argue with these people? Like, it's clear they don't want to see the truth. They just want to be in their echo chamber. So then he says that it's perfectly normal to call people fascists and Nazis. Still, after all these shootings, refusing to tone down his rhetoric.
Calling your fucking political opponent a fascist or a Nazi, especially post-World War II.
I think if all of a sudden lefties went out and started executing right-wingers in a large scale, Hasan would be cheering from the streets, saying, this is exactly what I hoped for.
Is quite literally one of the most common things that people do. I would go so far as to say that normies experience this kind of discontent towards the administration and are more willing to say this is fascist, this is unacceptable, than people calling me a fucking terrorist in the real world as opposed to online. Especially because the fault lines in which people call me a terrorist are on an issue that has swung societal attitudes dramatically in my direction. Can you imagine an average person turning around and being like, oh, you oppose Israel's genocide? You're a terrorist? Especially now in broad daylight in public? Nobody's fucking doing that. That's ridiculous.
This guy in Israel, bro. Oh my God. Oh, you need some serious therapy, bro. Hasan, what's your favorite color? No, Israel's not a color, Hasan. Hasan, what's your favorite food? No, it's not Israel, Hasan. What the heck? For the 999...
Hasan, what's your favorite Islamic nation? No, Hasan, Israel is not an Islamic nation.
Time, people call you a terrorist glazer because you glaze terrorists. Nothing to do with the war in Gaza. It's a factual statement. Also, still calling people like fascists and Nazis is just absolutely crazy. Like, clearly just has no remorse. He does not care that these people are dying. Right, so this next part, people are talking about the violent attacks happening, and Hasan immediately justifies it, saying it's not even violent.
To just give some receipts for what you're saying. So there have been 9 notable anti-ICE or anti-CBP attacks, acts of violence during President Trump's second term. And just last week, violent protests, and this is the video after the scroll that I wanted to show. Just last week, violent protests broke out at an Illinois...
Look at this. They're like, oh, violent incidents, okay? And some of them are violent. And then others are literally just like attacks by rocks and sticks. That's crazy.
Well, throwing a
According
rock
to
at a
Hasan,
car
according
driving
to Hasan, apparently
driving
it's not violence to
at
actually throw
speeds
fucking giant
can
rocks at people, potentially
break a
breaking their
window
skulls.
and hurt
I
them.
mean, this guy's unbelievable.
Or throwing
he
a
even
rock at
admits
an
a lot of
agent.
the attacks against him are violent, but then he has to single out rocks and go, well, not the rocks though. Rocks are infamously non-violent, guys. Now click this video or you
Yeah, it's not like rocks were ever one of the first weapons. A rock in a slingshot. Boom! There you go.
become as stupid as
The
the
first
average
guns,
Hasan fan.
if you
Alrighty,
think
thanks for
about it.
watching. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe. Go watch Pegasus's video too. You know, I don't want to steal his views. Have a good day. And goodbye.